Hi, Corey Geiger along with Neil Rudel. We're here at the Horseshoe, and Neil, we almost kind of thought we were witnessing something incredible with what was going on here with Matt McGloin. Really kind of unbelievable storyline unfolding, and as it turned out, it was unbelievable because it really fell apart in the second half.
It did. There were a couple Penn State players that said, we were up 14-3, we had an 11-point lead, and we blew it. I don't really believe that. I think Ohio State's just a much better team, turned it up about 3 notches, didn't come out necessarily ready to play, and Penn State did a good job in the first half. But I think there's a pretty big gap between these two programs.
It's interesting. You and I have spoken a good bit over the past week about what happened at against Northwestern last week. Northwestern gets up 21-0, and the talent differential between Penn State and Northwestern, I'm sure most people would agree, is pretty large. Penn State scores on 5 consecutive possessions, and once it started going against Northwestern, when they're playing against better talent, they weren't really going to be able to turn. Well, that's what we saw here today. The talent differential, to me, and whether people want to hear this or not, between Penn State and Ohio State is significant.
No question, especially up front. I mean, they had trouble running the ball in the second half. I mean, their running game worked reasonably well in the first half, and I think that helped open up the passing game. McGloin kind of, for the first time, sort of came down to earth. And, it just sort of all unraveled. You get 2 pick sixes, you're not going to win. And, they have a couple more games to see if they can salvage something.
McGloin's a feel-good story, and they're playing an Indiana team next week that gave up 83 points today, which is an embarrassment.
Is that a Big Ten record?
It's an embarrassment. So I fully expect McGloin to be able to bounce back, and there's the perfect opponent to bounce back. But you want a kid to face some adversity and see how he handles it.
And he is now, because everything had been going his way, including all the ESPN hype. I mean, this kid became a household name in a month as a walk-on. I mean, just a really neat story. And in the first half, it looked like this guy was maybe going to be their quarterback for 3 years. So how quickly it can change. I do think he should still be the starter, at least for the rest of the regular season, and let's see what happens.
McGloin and the offense struggled in the second half. They only had 60 yards in the second half, so that was clearly a big part of the problem, and the 2 pick sixes. But the defense also gave up 225 yards rushing in the second half, 314 total. Boom Herron goes for 190. 2 weeks after, Denard Robinson goes for 191. What has happened to this Penn State run defense?
Well, I just think this is one of the weaker Penn State defenses that we've ever seen. I don't think they have a lot of playmakers. When Maudie went out, he's the one guy that was making some plays last week. I don't think they have anybody on the front line that has to be double teamed. They force no fumbles. They forced 1 fumble all year. They did get 1 sack today. Crawford came back, and usually your defensive end positions is what you count on for a blindside sack, maybe a fumble, creating some turnovers. They just don't do that.
Here's what it comes down to: they're 6-4 right now. They're going to beat Indiana next week because Indiana, you would think, is just a train wreck at this point. And then that makes them 7-4. Even if you lose to Michigan State, you're 7-5. I think that's good enough for the Gator Bowl January 1st in Jacksonville. But hey, I think they might be able to beat Michigan State.
Sure.
We'll see. I mean, we don't know a whole lot yet still about Sparty. So 7-4, 8-5, can still be, you'll have the win over Michigan. What kind of season would that be?
Well, I think 8-4 regular season would be a lot better than 7-5, because it would include a win over, what will be a decent Michigan State team coming in. It'll kind of salvage things. I think, if they beat Michigan, maybe they could be 7-6 if they don't beat Michigan State. And, Indiana can score. So I'm sure everybody will be looking past that game. It won't be, it's a game they have to win. But, I still think to feel good about the season, they need to beat Michigan State.
And to feel realistic, Ohio State is the class of this league. Wisconsin beat them. Wisconsin is there this year too. But year in and year out, if Penn State is going to be the best in this conference, they've got to figure out this team.
Absolutely.
All right, for Neil Rudel, I'm Corey Geiger. Thanks for tuning in.